Is this part of like a DARE program? Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I fixed my hair. I actually took the time to actually care for my hair. I haven't done that since my friend got married. After that, I said, I do not care. I just been rocking my bonnet. My top, ooh, Lord, it was a hot mess. Okay, it looked like a bird's nest, but I fixed it. I look so much better. Okay, this video is going to be you guys' most unhinged Degrassi opinions. So, I actually made a Reddit post. I actually have Reddit now. Will I go on it? As much as I possibly can, to be quite honest. But, yeah, I put up a post for you all to share your most unhinged Degrassi comments there. I also put it on my community tab, so if you're not aware, I do use my community tab as much as I can. So I'm gonna need y'all to get on that, okay? As much as y'all watch the videos, I'm gonna need y'all to go to the community tab. I'm just saying. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I actually have one comment through the community post, and I have a few over through the Reddit page. So I'm gonna start off with the Reddit post, and then we'll go into the YouTube comment on my community post. All right, starting off with number 1. Someone says, Paige got done dirty and had a full-on arc, relapsed and paid for it dearly. If that movie when she works in with Jay and Silent Bob is canon and she didn't deserve it, she's been through too much she deserved. That's a little bit of a time in the limelight. I hope she was cool with it, because seeing that was rough when you start liking Paige. Okay. we gonna take a breath. But I feel like going back at the beginning, I agree. Paige did get done dirty, because she had such a good redemption arc as a character, especially after being graped by Dean, her situation with Spinner, after being pretty much chosen second to Manny. And after that, things just went downhill from there. Even with her relationship with Mr. Oleander, I was like, girl, why? You just got assaulted by a like 18-year-old. Why is this back piece not doing it? Okay, you just got assaulted by an 18-year-old, and now you over here trying to sleep with your student teacher, and your student teacher is a grown man. He's like 23, 24 years old. You're 16. You don't find that weird? Because I find it weird. And granted, I get it. Mr. Oleander, without all the mess with Paige, he is an attractive guy, but you don't do that with your student teacher or your student. Granted, I had a student teacher who was really cute, okay? He was really cute, but he never did anything like that. He'd be like, oh my God, you guys are so smart. Let's have discussions in English. Everyone's like, oh my God, hi. And he'd be like, all right, bye. like, let's be honest here. There's the whole teacher or student teacher relationship with students is just weird in general, and it kind of made me mad that Paige was the person involved with that because of what she had been through before. That made me mad. And then going into more of the comment talking about her role being in the movie with Jay and Silent Bob, the whole situation with Degrassi Goes Hollywood, how she became a little bit of like an egotistical character. Like, I get it, but I also don't get it, like why they did that to her as a character. So I completely agree with this statement, because her slapping Marco was completely out of character. Her desperate to be seen is very on brand for Paige as a character. That's going to be in a separate video, why Paige has always been insecure, because she always has been. Slapping Marco was just unhinged. But the arc of her wanting to be in the spotlight, it would have been fine if they did not add in that slap with Marco, but also the fact that maybe she would have taken some time and reflected on herself, because she had been such an involved character. For her to immediately just get smacked down by Manny like showing up, or just like having it thrown at her by Marco, it didn't make sense to me. I feel like Paige as a character, she would have reflected on that personally. Maybe like after seeing like a Perez post, looking at it and then looking like very solemn, maybe sad, just like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing this? Like, I feel like that would have been a little bit more better when it comes to Paige as a character. And then after the whole slap heard across the world, we don't see her anymore. We don't see Marco anymore, so we don't know if they made up until later you get to Degrassi Next Class. If you watch Degrassi Next Class, I'm not counting Drake's music video because we know Paige was up in there. But if you didn't watch Next Class, they do show up there very briefly. And they do joke about like, oh, don't make me slap you again. He's like, please. Like, they do make that joke, but it's not the same. It's just like, oh, so y'all made up in passing? But why do we have that part in the whole first place? So I completely agree with that comment. I only read a little bit of it. I read a little bit of it, but just going to start off. Spinner and Craig fighting over Paige equal fire. That they said that it didn't make sense. It was very weird. Valid, because it had nothing to do with her. Even when she did slap him with the garbage bags, I've been like, girl, that's not how you handle a situation. Should she do like training? Yes, but fire because two dudes were fighting at her place of work? That don't make no sense. That's literally like as if people fighting at fucking Waffle House gets the Waffle House employees fired. It makes no sense. It ain't got nothing to do with them. And it's a movie theater in the freaking 2000s / like late 90s, 2000s time, okay? We had security guards, but they really didn't do all of that. They didn't, like, in terms of like fighting like that, they wouldn't have been like up there surrounding the teenagers. They would just been like, get up and get out, like type of thing. But for Paige to be fired, that was really stupid. Anyway, next part, the Manny and JT relationship, super unnecessary. I completely agree. Really fucking weird. Ain't gotta say nothing else. They had no chemistry and no reason being together. Valid. Jimmy should have never forgiven Spinner. Also valid. He didn't have to forgive Spinner. He really didn't have to. Spinner eventually does go on goes down his character development journey and becoming a better person. He did not need Jimmy's approval to do that. Like, Jimmy didn't need to forgive him for Spinner to go through the process that he ends up going through. And even then, when he's talking to Holly J about things that he's done, he doesn't even mention that, actually, to be quite honest. Now that I'm going back to it, like, he didn't even mention the fact that he got his best friend shot. Or did he? Because literally, when I watched the snippet again, after, like, editing so many of these Degrassi videos, he mentioned that he stole from Jimmy and that he got ball cancer and his parents died, but you never mentioned that you got your friend shot. I'm confused. Now I'm confused because I'm sorry, but Jimmy did not need to forgive him. Like, that was so unnecessary. Spinner should have just been on his healing journey regardless of Jimmy accepting his apology. It felt very unnecessary. Why does this thing keep going all over the place? Anyway, moving on to the next part of, I don't know why people ship Drew and Bianca. They were hell. Thank you. Thank you so much. Like they said, Bianca was the side chick. Like, literally. Like, it always takes two to tango. Like, Drew had no reason to cheat on Allie, and Bianca had no reason to be part of that. He even told her, because I'm not giving Drew any like leniency whatsoever. I'm not. He literally told Bianca, I have a girlfriend, and she said so y'all both wrong. Because first of all, Drew, you know you have a girlfriend, and you told her you have a girlfriend, and you still disrespected your girlfriend. And Bianca, you disrespected another woman. All because what? Bianca, to me, is the equivalent of Jay. We all say, like, Jay is, like, the devil of Degrassi. Bianca's like that, too. Because ain't no way. I can't. Okay, moving on. Things got serious and they were no longer together. There was another woman involved. So that kind of, yeah, exactly. It's like things got so serious, but then once another woman wasn't involved, Bianca just, like, threw him to the side. Because even with the whole Katie situation, Drew was with Katie the entire time. And they had this whole back and forth of Bianca and Drew having feelings, but as soon as they finally get together, it doesn't even last. She goes to university and then they break up. So you like to be caught up in mess. You like to be the other woman. So you like this kind of thing. You like that attention. You like to cause chaos. You don't care about anybody else's feelings but your own. So you're not a good person. Clock that. All right, next part, they talk about Adam comparing the male and female symbol in the bathroom to segregation. Kind of pissed them off because, yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's not segregation. It's not anything equivalent to segregation. I don't even know what to say to that because I didn't even catch that. I don't remember. Or was that, it must have been after his episodes, I forgot the name of the goddamn episodes. But you know what I'm talking about, the main focus episodes for Adam. It must have been in the second part of the episode, maybe later on. I don't remember, but I do not remember that situation. But that's kind of weird, Adam. I know you're in Degrassi heaven, but that was weird, okay? I don't think you know what segregation really is, but okay. Derek was a little shit who needed his ass whooped. Yeah, I agree. There was a teacher that was like overly rude and threatening Derek. They wonder whatever happened to that. It kind of like just dropped this storyline. Like, what was the purpose? I don't even remember that. Now I gotta go watch Degrassi again. I mean, not a problem, because I watch it all the time. But I do not remember that whatsoever. Was there a teacher that was like that? Y'all let me know in the comments, because I do not remember that whatsoever. Also, Derek was just not a good person anyway. I'm not saying the kid deserved that kind of behavior from a teacher, because a teacher should know better than grown as hell. Act grown. Be grown. But still, because it's Derek. Like, I remember that. Please let me know in the comments if you remember that. Claire moving in with the pot seller people was unnecessary as fuck and random. That was random. I feel like it would have been more believable if Claire like moved into a house that was like extremely religious, like a cult. That would have been more interesting because she is a religious person. She could have been seeking someone to talk to about what she's been going through with Jake and Jenna, because Jenna's trifling. Like, that would make more sense to me than moving in with pot sellers. So maybe they were trying to be like, maybe that was a whole message of the episode. It was just like, pot's bad. Like, I don't know, weed's bad. Like, whatever type of thing. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to villainize it. I don't know. Is this part of like a DARE program? Like, was this a PowerPoint that they just wanted to put in the episode? I don't know. But it would have made sense if Claire was in a religious household with somebody. Like, the friendship club, we only saw them like a little bit when Claire was dealing with her parents divorcing. It would have been very interesting to have like a girl who was like very religious, maybe even like Christian nationalist religious, and be like, oh my God, Claire, you can stay with us. And she could like stay there for like a few days and see like how weird it is to be in that dynamic. That would have been more interesting, but they weren't ready for that because that probably would have angered a lot of Christians, but I would have been like, interesting. Interesting take. I know the Claire cancer storyline was supposed to be serious, but her in that bald cap, I know. It's always like certain things like that where it's like, it's obviously it's like a serious storyline, or it's like it's a serious topic, but the choices that they make appearance wise, or even just like how to go about it, you're like, I just laugh. It reminds me of Shamar Moore's cornrow wig from the Medea movie. It reminds me of that. Like, it was just like, oh babe, this is weird. Also, I don't know why they didn't give her a cancer storyline. Like I said before, they replaced Claire with Jenna to be Allie's best friend, and they gave Claire all this other drama to make her like probably like the Emma of her season. And even then, it was just weird, which is probably also why a lot of people hate her. Thanks a lot, Degrassi. Y'all unintentionally made character like the Emma of her season, and we all hate Emma, so immediately we're gonna correspond Claire to like the Emma of the season, and automatically hate her. Thanks a lot, because that's gonna be a separate video. I'm gonna shut up. So Miss O and Sav, ill, same. Now Miss O with anybody else, yes. Okay, Miss O, Mr. Oleander, ooh, that would've been cute. That would've been cute. Anyway, but she wasn't there, but I'm just mean, you know, cross-generational, whatever. Anyway, And the fact that they said pretty much that Miss O helped Claire with the Asher situation when she's a predator herself. It's like, ooh, yeah. Interesting take. It's just like, oh, I think they had the Asher situation. Yeah, it was the Asher situation was after her and the Sav situation. That's a really weird thing. Like, we didn't have, well, also we didn't have Miss Sauvé. Not Miss Sauvé. Miss Sauvé was there for Degrassi, the next generation, like, technically for them. But the therapist that was in the rubber room for Degrassi next class, not next generation, Degrassi next class. I would have loved to have seen her early on because we didn't have no therapist for these other kids. For the Degrassi group, there was like no therapist. We needed somebody for them because my God, they've been through some shit. Like, I think did we have Miss Sauvé? I can't remember. Like, even if we did, I feel like we probably didn't see enough. Like, we needed like a hardcore therapist for that group because they've been through some shit, especially for Eli. Oh my God. Like, I'm just saying, like, that's weird though. Relationships always seem to be romanticized instead of looked at as inappropriate and valid. It's like they want us to ship the relationship, and the only time they portrayed a student-teacher relationship that was wrong was when it was homosexual, Tristan and Mr. Yates. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not like defending them, but maybe the Degrassi production was like, we gotta backtrack this, we gotta show that it's bad, but they chose such a weird time to do it and such a wrong time to do it when they should have done that beforehand. Granted, with the media and things that we had consumed, especially as millennials during that time, there was a lot of stuff that was very much like age gap romances was like the height, like Twilight. Why is a 100-year-old man interested in a 17-year-old? Just because he died at 17, but he's technically 100 years old. We had, what's the other show? What's the thing? You know what I mean? The show with this. Lucy Hale's finger is not even in the middle. I forgot the name of the show. That show. Pretty Little Liars. There we go. Even they had a student-teacher relationship that was romanticized. There were several other shows that had it romanticized. So it really didn't help either that the media at the time really romanticized that type of relationship. And then later on, that's when people are like, no, bad. We don't do that. And then immediately they do that, but then they do that with two gay characters. So it looks bad for the gay characters, and it was just wrong timing. It was just really bad timing. It would have been, we shouldn't have had it at all because Tristan is extremely desperate. But yeah, that's weird. It's like, oh, you guys. And then there's just more examples. Anya and the doctor, Fiona and Charlie. Like I said, I love Charlie separately. She had no business being with Fiona. She already had her own mess and she was interested in a high schooler. Weird. But Charlie on her own, hot. Lady is a R word and she took advantage of Drew. Declan is also an R word and took advantage of Holly J. They can both go to hell. Yeah. And they tried to make it like gray area with Declan and Holly J, but it was literally R word. It really was. Because she said no, and Declan didn't stop. Like I said, Declan is a creep. Go support that video. I'm gonna put that over here. Somewhere. Anyway, go watch that video because Declan is a creep. And just like they said, Declan is a narcissist and controlling. Facts. Jen was done for cheating on Spinner with Declan. Yeah, I don't know what anyone sees in Declan. Exactly, same. Like, what do you see in Declan? What do you see in Declan? Like, I don't understand it. I don't. He just gave me pretentious dude who was just used to getting his own way. I mean, his family's rich, so I'm just saying. Next comment. Ashley was mostly done dirty with the whole situation of her and Jimmy's song. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he hopped on her song, wasn't even passionate about rapping music, and Ashley was shoved into the background. That's not Jimmy's fault, but she was still done dirty by everybody else. Yes. Because first of all, we never had Jimmy interested in music before. It was always basketball. Like, I get we want to try to introduce him with having other interests besides basketball, but y'all literally put this character so much in as like, the basketball character that we never got to see anything else. You only start to try to figure out Jimmy as a character beyond basketball after he gets shot. Like, if you really wanted us to care about Jimmy's like interests prior to, give us more of that. I'm just saying. So like packing in there in a minute. Anyway, Joey and Caitlin shouldn't have gotten back together in Next Generation. Facts. Not much to say about that. Should never been together. Next Class wasn't even that bad and is overhated. Yeah. I've never heard anybody talk about Next Class, so maybe that's why I'm over here like, did anybody watch Next Class? But if that was the consensus that it was bad and overhated, don't blame that. In my opinion, don't blame that on Degrassi producers. Blame that on Netflix. Take it up with Netflix, because Netflix ruins everything, even the good stuff, okay? The fact that they went to Netflix, I said, oh, this ain't gonna last long, is it? This ain't gonna last long. At all, whatsoever. It's not gonna last long. Everyone heavily criticizes the racism plot in season 2. There are parts that were messy due to people writing from a place that don't have experience with the topic at hand. What a true apology in these situations is accountability, the history of Black people being portrayed as animals, etc. And I'm literally shocked that the writers were possible of portraying those subjects, bare minimum, but surprising for the time. Yeah, I feel like being heavily criticized is kind of ridiculous, because I feel like with Degrassi, they're good at covering topics, but they're not great at covering topics. Like, they can throw it in there, but they're not good at fleshing it out and continuing the conversation that they want to have. It's very much, it kind of reminds me of sitcoms in the way where you would have a specific issue and it lasts for like 2 episodes, and then at the end of the second episode you get your message, and then literally the next episode after that has nothing to do with the major issue that happened between those 2 episodes. It kind of reminds me of that. Like how I just said, it kind of reminds me of like DARE programs, where it's like you throw in information into an episode of like, don't do drugs. Next episode, it's like as if no one talked about the fact that that character did any drugs. It was just like a publicity stint. It was just thrown in there. So I feel like with Degrassi, they put parts in there and they don't really flesh it out, because they've always done it like that. So I can't really fault them at that. But yeah, obviously, could they have done better? Yeah, obviously. But I feel like with that whole plot in season 2, looking back on it now, especially being a Black woman in America, when I watch it and reflect on it, it kind of reminds me of what it's like right now. I mean, it's always been like this before, but it's like extremely heightened right now, where white women will use their tears and their victimhood to be victim for something that they've contributed to, something that they perpetuate. And so watching it again, it's very much like that. Frankie's using her white women tears for something that she started, that she took initiative to make that decision, and everyone just backed her up and did it. And as soon as Shay calls her out on it, she starts crying. So I feel like they took the concept of racism and Black people being portrayed as animals, but when you look at it now, I can see it through the lens of white women in America and how they victimize themselves. So it's like they took such a broad concept and they condensed it down for a few episodes, but looking back, it leads to a bigger conversation. So I feel like I don't know if they really intended on that, but there was just like a lot of parts that they missed, but things that do come back when you watch it again, where you're like, huh, this has always been an example of that, but we didn't see it, or we didn't recognize it at the beginning. Okay. Anya did worse to Sav than Sav has ever done to Anya. He just never stood up to his strict parents for her and didn't take her seriously a lot. Yeah, Pretty much. You can read the rest, but it's very much straightforward. Literally. Anya, I would say they both depended on each other. I said that in my Anya video. They both heavily depended on each other. But like watching the episodes back again and doing my clips for the videos and just rewatching the whole episode, because you know I have to watch the whole episode to make sure I get the right clip. I gotta make sure I get the right information, so I'm not throwing the wrong thing in there, or you know, I want to get like the right stuff. Watching it back again, Anya was manipulative as hell. Very manipulative. Very, very, I can't even say controlling, but very manipulative when it came to Sav. Like, she lied about being pregnant. She coerced him pretty much to have sex. He wanted to, but she pretty much did it because of Farrah. She was jealous of Farrah, because Farrah's hot. Like, I'm not going to deny that. But she got so insecure about that. Because Anya had no business. She had no plan to actually sleep with Sav in that limo. She had no plan. She did because Farrah was there. And Sav was looking at her like that. Very manipulative. Spinner and Emma are my OTP. Okay, I guess. I don't want to say nothing negative. It's just like, okay, that's your opinion. I thought Jane and Declan were good together. Okay. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, they technically kind of deserve each other, because why would you cheat on Spinner? I'm just saying. And Declan is Declan. So, whatever. Jack, the girl, not the baby, was by far the most insufferable character. I don't even remember Jack. I try my best not to even remember Jack, to be quite honest, because I feel like Imogen as a character was fine on her own. She did not need any, like, romances or anything going on. Like, her and Fiona were cute. Her and Fiona were cute, and that was literally, like, the relationship that I only focus on when it comes to Imogen. Her friendship with Eli is different, because I feel like that they have more of a friendship than they had a relationship, obviously. Her and Jack, I didn't even pay attention to Jack. Jack gave me Taylor Swift in a Degrassi show. Like, the red lipstick and the braid around. I said, girl, get off my screen. Like, literally, I when the episodes air, like, remembering the episodes when they aired, whenever Jack popped up on my screen, I disassociated real quick. I just said, move it on. My brain was just like I barely, I barely remember. I just remember that ugly ass braid crown and that red lipstick. I was like, who the fuck hired Taylor Swift? Like, that was always my mindset. And she danced, and when her hair was down, she was fine. And she smoked cigarettes, but that's all I remember. I don't remember anything else. Maybe she wanted to be polyamorous. I don't know. I don't remember. But, like, that's it. I mean, like, I said, girl, move on. Like, the same thing how I felt about Drew and Bianca's thug love story situation. I skipped past that so fast. I said, anyway, moving forward. I did not care. Casey is the best character. Not you being wrong. Casey is not the best character. Like, let's recount Casey. Let's go back a little bit, okay? Casey at the beginning was fine. He was just a new student who was in a foster home, who was into Claire. He was a gifted student. And she was just like, oh, you're in a gifted program? That's the first time when I was like, Claire, stop being, don't do that. That was my first instance of being like, girl, don't be about that. I'm gonna stop you right there. Don't start that shit. And Casey clocked her. So thankfully, you know, she didn't stay in that mindset too long, okay? He was just like, what do you mean I ain't gifted? I'm like, clocked it. He wasn't afraid to put Claire in her place. And not in like a rude way or like in a controlling way. He knew how to defend himself, especially against people like Claire who were judgmental or just had like any preconceived notions of who he was as a person. Later on, Casey essentially emotionally cheats on Claire, starts having a crush on Jenna, breaks up with Claire to get with Jenna. And then as soon as Casey starts to have his struggles in life when it came to his coach trying to groom him, he tells Claire immediately, everything that happened in my life, every bad thing that happened in my life after we broke up is Jenna's fault. So you don't take any accountability for the fact that A, you cheated on her, but B, the fact that you were groomed by your teacher is not anybody's fault. It's not your fault. It's not Jenna's fault. It's that grown man's fault for being weird. and the school's fault for hiring him. Like, it had nothing, there was no one's fault when it comes to that. Like, that's a whole separate situation, Casey. You just needed therapy with that. I feel like he just needed therapy because he wanted somebody's attention. He didn't have a parent figure. So he sought that out in the coach. We didn't have Coach Armstrong till a little bit later on, or was it a little bit before, when he wanted to be on the basketball team and Coach Armstrong was like, I'm gonna need you to tighten up. Like, I don't remember what the timeline was with Coach Armstrong and him wanting Coach Armstrong too. It must have been after. Yeah, it was after, because that's when Casey's mom comes and he wanted to emancipate himself. Why everybody wanted to emancipate themselves? Sean, Casey, I think there was someone else who wanted to emancipate themselves. Why? That wasn't very common for teenagehood. That wasn't something that we thought about. Did we ever want to run away from home? Yeah, but emancipate, I feel like that never came up. I don't know where Degrassi got that from. But anyway, Casey literally just needed some therapy. And then when his mom comes into the picture and he doesn't want to live with her, which granted, I agree with him on that. Why would he immediately want to come live with you when you have a history of neglecting him and drug use? So yeah, of course he was going to be skeptical about moving in with you. Of course he was going to be mad because you come in and he has a pretty good life after the whole coach situation. He has a pretty good life. He has a steady girlfriend, even though he emotionally cheated on his first girlfriend with her. But anyway, he's got a girlfriend. He's doing good in school. He has friends. Immediately, now you want to come in here saying that, oh, I'm better now, come live with me. No. You're unstable as a woman. You're an unstable parent. So why are you surprised that he doesn't immediately want to jump up and run into your arms and be home with you? No, because you're unstable. You're an unfit parent. Like, I get that she was doing better, but how was Casey supposed to know that when she had been gone for years and he's been in a foster home? I'm just saying, Casey had the right to be upset with that. Did he have a right to steal his mom's alcohol and get drunk? No. But here we are. So that whole situation, I don't fault Casey for that. He had no business getting into alcohol, but I don't fault him on not wanting to move in with her because, granted, she's unstable. Then when Jenna gets pregnant, she did the same thing that Liberty did, which pissed me off. It's like, why did y'all have that? Like, the same example. Like, we did have Manny, who did have an abortion, so he switched it up a little bit, but it was the same situation, essentially, where both characters waited until it was too late. And so Casey got mad at her over that, which valid, because, girl, you were literally ignoring the signs the entire time. Girl. I get it, you were scared, you're a scared teenager, but girl, this isn't the time to pretend like it's not real, because a child's gonna come out of you. It's not like I just thought I would wake up and everything will be like it'll go away or whatever. Girl, that is not how conception and baby bacon up in here work. That's not how it works. That's not how it works, okay? So yeah, Casey was rightfully so allowed to be mad at her for that. Did he have a right to lose his complete shit? No, but he was a right to at least be upset about that. And then when Jenna considers adoption very early on, which I'm like, okay, good, better. You waited too long to say something, but the fact that immediately, like, now you're like, okay, what about adoption? Casey's made like, whoa, what? No, why would we do that? But you were the first one to say that you were unfit to be a parent because you're a teenager. But now you're saying, whoa, because Jenna's considering adoption, putting the baby up for adoption. I'm so confused. Are you taking a page out of JT's playbook? Make it make sense. And then when Jenna has the baby and she has to leave school to be a stay-at-home mom, essentially, you are over here at school living your greatest life ever. And then all of a sudden when Jenna starts telling you, like, we need money, and you, like, start working, you don't even want to work, to be quite honest. You didn't want to. You just didn't want to be at home with the kid. Literally, as soon as he gets home from work, he immediately is like, oh, this is the last diaper. I gotta run out. When it wasn't. They had a whole fucking pack in that cabinet. He just didn't want to be there. And then he gets back to work. He starts to have a relationship with Marisol, essentially, like, at least flirting. Like, Casey was not a good character. And then as soon as Jenna does put up Ty for adoption, he gaslights her and blames her for it. Like, he gives her a whole freaking box of the pictures of them with Ty and being like, this is what you left in my apartment. This is what you left. And she's like looking in the box, clearly, obviously emotional from putting her baby up from adoption, her relationship with Casey, that being over with, all of that going on, plus the fact that her brother left. Her brother did because he got a job somewhere else. She's like emotionally all over the place, and you literally just shot her while she was down, and you didn't care how she was feeling. So how is Casey the best character? Because even after that, he never redeems himself. He ends up dating Marisol. When did he redeem himself? When did he redeem himself? Never. He never redeemed himself. And the only reason he got away with not redeeming himself, or even like just apologizing to anybody truly in general, he said sorry to he said sorry to Claire. It was such a half-assed apology. He never even got to, because his dad got out of jail and is immediately influencing his mom, so they gotta leave. So he had an excuse to leave. But Casey as a character is not a good character. He's never been redeemed. He never apologized to anybody. He's never once considered someone else's feelings besides his fucking own. Because you show up at Ty's new family being like, oh, I just want to spend the day with Ty. That's not your child anymore. You didn't even want him. And all of a sudden now you want to hang out with him? It's only okay when it's convenient for you. But that's not your child anymore. You're being weird. You're being weird. You're not a considerate person. You're not a good character whatsoever. So I completely disagree. So this commenter, this Reddit user, you're false. You're wrong. Because ain't no way. Next up, the show should have had some of the Claire storylines in season 14 from Eli's POV, especially him dealing with all the news while at work and talking to Spinner about it. Oh yeah, the whole Claire with Drew getting pregnant. Yeah, it would have been, I feel like, yeah, that would have been interesting to get it more from Eli's perspective. Because the only thing we ever got from Eli's perspective was honestly the Degrassi shorts episodes about him and his college life on the YouTube channel. That was the only time we got anything from his perspective, which is wild. As a character as a Degrassi character that has had the most trauma for that class, we got nothing from his perspective. Literally thinking about it, Eli as a character, we got everyone else's perspective or opinion of Eli's situation in life, but nothing from Eli's POV. Like, we never shot from Eli's house, starting with Eli waking up and like his dad coming home or anything like that. We showed nothing like that. That's so weird and interesting, because we never got that. We did that with Craig at the beginning when his dad was abusing him, but we never did that with Eli. Huh. They fumbled that bag. And someone just co-signs that, saying like they would have preferred that, honestly, over the Drew and Claire drama. I agree. Peter is a way better person than Jay. I ain't got to say nothing because someone underneath is like, Peter, as in took advantage of Drunk Mania and distributed her video throughout the school. Peter, he's a better person than Jay. Why? The person co-signs their original post by saying that Jay was responsible for a guy getting crippled. He is a thief, a homophobe, distributed a sex tape of him and his girlfriend, revenge porn, and gave multiple girls STDs, and is simply just an insufferable person all around. But Peter was never a good person either. He is not better than Jay. They're both equally bad, in my opinion. They tried to redeem Peter by having him addicted to cocaine for an episode and a half, but that didn't work. Because Peter was never a good person. He's not a way better person than Jay, but I would say if you're gonna weigh scales, if like Jay is 10 rocks, Peter is 9 rocks. Like, he's not better by any chance. It's just a little bit lighter, but still, they're pretty equivalent, like literally. That's just me. That's just my opinion. Peter is not a way better person than Jay. Never can and never will be. All right. This was the first comment, actually, and this is a lot, so we're gonna run through this. Okay. I love when people have a paragraph, because as much as I talk about Degrassi, I love that y'all talk about Degrassi so much and have so much to say, because babe, we can go back and forth all day about talking about Degrassi. Anyway, Emma's actions in If You Leave, season 6, in which she was seemingly overreactionary to JT's death, Manny leaving her to go back home, and actions against Lakehurst were justifiable. I mean, the girl had someone in front of had someone close to her house at a party that should have never taken place. And I don't even think she was overreactionary, because Emma as a character, she has always been emotional. She's always been an emotional character, a very reactive character, so I don't think she was overreactionary. I feel like it was very on brand for Emma as a character to react the way that how she reacted. If I'm being quite honest, like the way she reacted towards that. Especially also too, if we're going back before JT's death to when Jimmy got shot and Rick was... People even said that she was like being weird. She was underreacting. So it's just like, I feel like Emma as a character is always emotional, but in different ways of doing it, because she became very numb, very distant. She started hooking up with Jay. But yeah. So I agree with this comment. Like everything about Emma is justifiable. It doesn't mean I like her. I still don't like Emma as a character, but how she reacted does make sense for her as a character. Maya's actions in season 14 to do with Miles was just her guilt and Cam manifesting itself into problems that people ignored or basically thought Maya was crazy. Exactly. Someone finally gets it. Which is why I highly recommend, I'm gonna keep saying this, watch my Maya, Cam, Miles, and Zig video. You have to watch it, because I swear, everything related to Cam, it just like manifested as a big dark cloud over Maya and all of them, to be quite honest. Miles just came in, and he became a new student. He was a new student. He was newly involved in this situation. But Maya had such a traumatic past hanging over her head. Hey! Jay is the biggest duffel on people's shoulders. Getting Sean, Emma Spinner, JT, Peter, and even managed to do uncharacteristic things. Peter was always already uncharacteristic. I don't know what you're talking about. Peter was always already unhinged. But I don't completely disagree. That's gonna be in a separate video, why some characters that didn't change. Maybe it was okay if they didn't change. So Jay is definitely in that video. I'll be filming that sometime soon, eventually. Snake was pressured by Audra Torres and Hollingsworth, Mr. Hollingsworth, the mayor, to bow down to them to save his job. Audra in season 10 to 12 and Mr. Hollingsworth season 14, next class, especially with Miles starting a fire, Frankie's racist poster, and Hunch's actions at the prom. Why Snake didn't give them serious punishment has to do with pleasing the mayor. I don't know if it's pleasing the mayor, but I think it's also too with Snake as a principal. He already had been through so much before, and it's not excusing him for not taking those specific situations seriously to the full extent. I think it had to do with the fact that Degrassi had such a negative reputation beforehand with the whole it's so many, and these are not in complete order, absolutely, of this isn't in complete order of how these situations happen, but Eli's play with Romeo and Juliet, with having the Ice Hounds come in, that whole situation going on with Allie doing the I Hate Holly J page and her nudes, with Eli finding Cam and streaking while on drugs in the school. What else? So many things have happened. Adam being thrown into the doors by those hooligans for being transgender and having Adam use a different bathroom. Those are two separate situations. Drew and Bianca's whole thug situation. Oh my God. The fact that Darcy was lying on him, saying that he touched her or whatever when he didn't. This was before he was even a principal. This was with him as a teacher. Like, I feel like Snake has been through so much as a principal and a teacher at that school that when it came to next class and dealing with the Hollingsworth family, he was probably burnt out, numb, and scared of losing his job again. Because as someone whose parent was a principal for many years, my dad was a principal for a good portion of his career in education. It's not an easy job in terms of, I would say, having, students punished in the correct way. It's not as easy as like, oh, just expel them. There's a lot of factors into it. There's not only the paperwork, but there's the school board you gotta take into account of how they're going to come down on you for this situation, how parents in the parent-teacher organization view you and how they impact your job as a principal. Then there's the test scores and the pressure to overperform and do so well academically and have like these big numbers. And then plus also with being able to have such a welcoming environment, because teenagers are teenagers. Teenagers are messy. Teenagers are rude, especially when they're not raised correctly or even taught certain things like Adam's bullies. When you have kids like that, they make it so hard to run a freaking school. So Snake had a lot of things going against him. So I feel like with the Hollingsworth family, and because they did have money, they could have sued him. Would they have any right to sue him? No, but they would have, because they have money and he's a principal at a community school. So it had nothing to do with the fact with pleasing the mayor, but I think it had a lot to do with power, and the Hollingsworth family had a lot of power. They could make him lose his job permanently, because then everyone would be familiar with his track record of everything that has happened in Degrassi, going all the way back to Shark in the Water days. You know the video when they had the promo with Holly J and Sav in the room and the shooting and all that happening. Like they could bring all that up and be like, you are unfit to be within the education system, and they could have flagged him. They could have pretty much damaged his entire reputation and career working in education, because he'd been in education for so long. They could have ruined him. So I don't think it was pleasing them. It was because the Hollingsworth family had a lot of power and a lot of money, and Snake was probably scared. And the fact that literally adding in the fact that Hunter was Hunter, when he sent the freaking bomb threat to, I think it was to Maya's house, he had no remorse for that. You don't know what kind of unhinged things that kid will do. This family has power, money, and they have really unstable children. Hunter would have blown up that school. He would have pew-pewed up that school. He was about to, but Miles and Frankie clocked it and they got him out of there. He would have pew-pewed up that school. And who would they put that on? Snake. And then the Hollingsworth family, like I said, with power and money, they would have sued him for not taking care of their child, when it's actually Mr. Hollingsworth's fault for being the parent that he is and not holding his children accountable and raising his children and being there for them. Clock it. Raditch, because I said Ratchet before, Raditch gets the blame for ignoring Rick, but his biggest mistake was ignoring the students when Rick came back, and also not doing anything in the aftermath to save his butt. Very much true. It's a lot. Like I said, Raditch as a principal wasn't the best principal either. I feel like just being a principal is so hard. And for Mr. Raditch, he reminded me of a very old school type of person, very old school principal, very much like they focused on academics, the numbers, and getting funding. When it came to the students' mental health, when it came to dealing with anything with bullying or anything like that, it's like they have tunnel vision. They don't pay attention to all of that. They know what's going on, but they have such tunnel vision because it's never been talked about. It's never been addressed socially. It's not something that is talked about in that time period. Like, they didn't really talk about bullying like that. They didn't talk about mental health. Mental health didn't exist to them at that time. It didn't exist to them. It was pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Do what you're supposed to do. Focus on your hard work. It was hard work, ethics, and money that was more important than anything, and power. They did not care about mental health. So Mr. Raditch, was very much a product of his time and his upbringing. And he carried that into his profession as a principal, which is not good. Because he was a byproduct of his time and he wasn't open to learning, growing, and developing a safe school for the students. Because he even did that mess with Liberty when Liberty was trying to do something that was very informative and very serious and very like important to the community for the school. He was like, no, let's do something fun and cheery. Really? Are you not listening? Emma's clingy girlfriend phase was attributed to the Rick storyline and explains why she would be with a blackmailer like Peter, who was hit hard by PTSD. Sean, different examples. Someone's hit by PTSD. Sean, someone just random Damien, and a seemingly fellow vegan Kelly, and also explains why she tried so hard to keep the relationships, and when they fell apart, so did she. I kind of agree to this. Yeah. I feel like there's not much to say. It could also be the fact that Emma is constantly looking for someone to validate her. She did it a lot with Manny, and when Manny didn't validate her or agree with Emma 24/7, Emma would have a freaking conniption. She would like she literally went into a frenzy when someone didn't agree with her. And she sought validation from these guys, and the guys would give it to her, and then immediately everything would switch up, and she'd be like, what? And then she'll switch up, and then she'll become combative and defensive, like with Peter. And after the whole situation with Peter and Sean, when Peter even says like, good morning, Emma, she's like, don't talk to me. Even to Peter's mom, don't talk to me. Like I said, Emma's very disrespectful, but she became very defensive too immediately after that whole situation. She said, no, you crossed the line, and now I'm gonna stand 10 toes down, and I'm gonna slap you down too. Sean was the only person. She was kind of condescending towards Sean too. And then with Damien, I don't know why. Damien was just so unnecessary. With Kelly, she wanted that validation and that sense of belonging in college. I feel like they wanted to showcase that when you're in college too. There are so many different ways to experience college. Like we had Paige, she struggled to keep up even though she was such a smart student in high school, and she always kept up with this. She was very much like a type A student, but in college, it was very hard for her to keep up. She didn't have the focus. It was just very hard for her. And then we have Manny, who was easily getting into theater and connecting with other people. She had a very easy time to adjust because she was able to bond with people who are more like her than in Degrassi, to be quite honest. And then we have Liberty. Liberty always excelled at doing whatever the fuck she wanted to do. Period, point blank. The sorority thing is a different story, but Liberty as a character, she so easily knows who she is and know who is worthy of her time. So Liberty adjusting to college like wouldn't be that hard either for her, to be quite honest. I feel like the only way it would be hard would be dating, because she dated JT, but I would have loved to have seen Liberty have that experience of being a black girl on a predominantly white campus. I don't know if it was a predominantly white campus, but it looked like it because we had a whole bunch of white people and as extras. So it would have been interesting to see her as like dating as a black girl type of thing. I mean, we did get the comment from the one dude, be like, once you go black, you never go back. It's like, ugh, gross. But with Emma, I feel like it also shows that there's the other side where you do have a hard time adjusting. You have a hard time branching out because you're used to having such a close-knit group of friends. And when everybody branches out, you have trouble with finding your people. And immediately she latched on to Kelly because Kelly was in the room and he was a guy. And he gave her that validation by being interested in her. Emma as a character was just clingy in general. And very much seeking a lot of validation. Rick was better for Degrassi school than you think, because if there was a Rick trial, Spinner and Jay and Alex would have been exposed for their backhanded friendship to the cops. Radish would have faced a bigger backlash. The students perhaps would have faced heavy consequences, including maybe Emma and Paige, because of the Orange Ribbon campaign that saw everyone use that to beat up Rick, and think the teachers would have been exposed. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It was, I wouldn't say better, but I feel like it was the easier option. So yeah, I wouldn't say better, but it was definitely the easier option, because if they had dragged out that Rick storyline, oh, there'd be no coming back from that. As a Degrassi school, Mr. Radich would have never been able to be principal ever again. I mean, we end up getting Ms. Hasalakos as a principal for a little bit, but I think that was after after Shep had his whole situation with Claire. But I feel like since they had Radich there as a principal, they didn't have anyone contractually up next to be principal, or maybe the actor who played Mr. Radich had years on his contract to stay principal to be on the show. I don't know what the contract looked like, but maybe he had like a significant amount of time to be on the show. But if they did do that, maybe that school would have been in shambles afterwards. Like that would have been, it would have been interesting though, because ain't no way that these characters would be friends with each other ever again. Jimmy would have never forgiven Spinner, Jay, and Alex. Not only would they been exposed, but I feel like Jay and Alex and Spinner, they would have served at least some type of jail time, or at least some type of what's the freaking word where you don't go straight to jail, but like especially if you're a minor, like a rehab or something like that. Rehabilitation type thing. Like they would have had community service. There you go. They would have done some type of community service. We wouldn't have seen them. We would not have seen these characters, and then that kind of interfered with them showing up in their contract, whatever, because they're getting paid to be on the show. But we wouldn't have seen Spinner, Jay, and Alex for a long time. Yeah. And thankfully, Sean didn't go to jail, because clearly with the whole situation of the gun and when Sean and Rick were fighting back and forth over it, Sean was obviously just trying to save everybody. So obviously Sean didn't go to jail, and obviously he shouldn't have anyway, because it was clearly Rick who started it all in the first place. It would have been completely accidental. So, but if they did do a trial, Sean would have been on trial, even though obviously it was an accident, but he would have to say that under oath and everything. And then his parents would have showed up, maybe not. Then we really would have seen Sean go through a lot of trauma on the stand. Ooh, that would have been messy. But it would have been interesting though, but it would have been messy. And also Emma and Paige would have also gotten in trouble too for their Orange Ribbon campaign, literally at the height of Rick being treated the way he was. And then they would have found out what had happened at the dot too as well. Not saying that it was right, but they would have found out. They wouldn't have had grounds to like arrest anybody, but they would have been like, yeah, these were all Catholics. You guys were bullying him, and you guys also had to do community service. We would have lost a lot of main characters if they had a trial. And if we did see them, it would have been in passing. They would have had to focus on completely different characters. And I don't know if the writing team, I don't know if the writers and producers would have been ready for that. Because they would have had to focus on Manny. They would have had to focus on everybody else. They would have had to focus on Toby. I don't think they were prepared to focus on Toby, so they didn't do all that, to be quite honest. All right, let's jump to the YouTube comment. Anna was only made into a lesbian to avoid an incest storyline. The only guy she truly loved, even romantically, was Declan. Morgan, 1987. When I read that the first time, I couldn't stop laughing, because why is that kind of not wrong? Because it was so out of pocket when Fiona kissed her own brother. Yeah, because that was weird. Yeah, they had to like retract that. They said, ooh, that was weird. So I can't say I fully disagree, but it's like, you know what? You might be onto something. Lola was a terrible friend of Frankie. Not only did she kiss Winston, she never defended her decision to stop chatting during the Degrassi news. She called her out on putting a dyed streak in her hair as a cry for help, while she was perfectly able to have her own hair dyed vividly, and she hooked up with / got pregnant by her brother. Like I said, I don't completely disagree, and I don't completely agree, but it's like very nuanced. Why is my hair, you know what, I'm just going to start keeping this scarf on my head, because this is getting ridiculous. It's getting on my nerves. I'm just going to take this hair out. Lola, Frankie, and Shay were not good friends to each other. It was purely because they were friends with each other since like Degrassi, like season 14 roughly, minus Shay, because you know we had Keisha, and then they replaced another black girl with another black girl. Anyway, but yeah, I don't completely disagree or completely agree, because Lola wasn't a good friend. And then even also too, I will point this out, when it came to doing the Degrassi, when it came to doing the Lincoln Tech Zoo mural, Lola was all for it. I'm like, oh. Which, watching back again, brings about another perspective that we probably didn't think about at the time. Like I said, the use of white women tears in victimhood, but also because Lola is Hispanic, the Hispanic community not always, pretty much not saying always, but the Hispanic community typically being also racist towards black people. I mean, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Because we see it all the time, we hear it all the time, of how they don't want to associate with black people, especially Dominican people, when they're literally part black. Being like, I know black. It's like, And so with that kind of situation too, of Lola being so on board to do that, wild. And kind of just shows who Lola was as a character in that moment. With that, I would say with Frankie having a streak of hair, dyed hair, and her saying it was a cry for help, I think it was also too because of how Frankie was, because Frankie was a very over emotional person too as well. She was a very emotional person, and Frankie's face, she looked like she was very much in pain with having the streak in her hair too. And I don't feel like Lola was right for saying that it was a cry for help, but it was something that was very noticeable because of how Frankie is and how Frankie always been. She's always been a very peppy character, very happy character. So for her to like, for her to like have like a streak in her hair and her behavior had completely changed after dating Winston, it was a shock. So I don't think that Lola was right to say that was a cry for help, but it was something that was very noticeable. It was very easily noticeable. It also reminded me of Claire when she was dealing with her parents' issues right before they were about to get divorced, and she had like a complete 180 makeover. And Eli was just like, what is that? So yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. If you like this video, be sure to like it. If you would love for me to do a part 2, please let me know. I'm gonna need y'all to like add to the Reddit post or add to the community tab. I'll do a new post there, and y'all can add them there, and I can do strictly just like a YouTube one. And yeah, that's all I have for this video. If you like this video, be sure to like this video. Comment below your unhinged opinion, and I can add it into a part 2. And until next time, stay magical. Bye.